Welcome to the Dirty Verdict. This week, Kyle and Peter will discuss several news stories, including a recent lawsuit filed by Houston lawyer Tony Buzbee on behalf of a local influencer against a Delaware public commentator. We got Gwyneth Paltrow's skiing lawsuit. We've got a wrongful death claim over allegedly providing abortion pills to a woman. Story about possible new courts coming in Harris County, and we'll discuss recent jury verdicts in Houston. Stay tuned. Here we go. All right, welcome back, everybody, to our most recent edition of the Dirty Verdict podcast. This is Peter Taaffe, and I'm here with
Kyle Herbert. Welcome back to the Dirty Verdict.
So, Kyle, this is in this version of the show, we're going to go through our recent legal stories with a focus primarily on Houston and Texas, but we'll get outside if we need to.
Pete, it feels like it's been 3 weeks since I've seen you. How have you been?
I'm good. I did not take spring break. This is one of the first years my kids have aged out of that part of our lives. A couple went, but we did not.
When they age out, do you age out? Is that the problem?
We hung on. Last year we spent 10 days on spring break, and this year we spent none. So
yeah, I'm sad to hear that, Pete.
But you're still in the thick of it, so that's good.
Did some skiing, went to Colorado, but I'm back with both legs working and ready to rock out.
All right, well, good. We'll get to a skiing story momentarily, but first let's start with. That's right. Let's start with a very recent one, at least to the point that we're recording.
Yeah.
The case was filed yesterday. It is styled Eric Vaughn versus Lauren Witzke. It is pending in one of our favorite courts, the 157th, Judge Garrison, in Harris County. And so the plaintiff lawyer, another person known well to us and to the city of Houston, the plaintiff's lawyer is Tony Buzbee. And the petition, for those who can get it online, is very interesting. And then Mr. Buzbee posted about it on one of his social media platforms. So, Kyle, did you have a chance to read this when I sent it to you last night?
I 100% did, Peter. Really interesting case. Several different legal kind of approaches. I've got questions about this one, Peter.
Okay, and it does we've had a lot of Alex Jones story interviews and discussions, and this is, I believe, kind of in the same...
Very similar.
Same vein. So, Eric, I'll break it down and you can give your comment. So, according to the petition, Mr. Vaughn, the plaintiff, is a professional hairstylist, and he has, according to the lawsuit, hundreds of thousands of followers on his Instagram and TikTok pages. He and his husband wanted to pursue having a baby through the surrogacy process, and then was very open about their experience with that on social media. They ultimately had, through a surrogate, had twin girls in February of 23, and apparently that last month. And so that, according to the lawsuit, generated the defendant, Miss Witzke, posting some comments about them on her social media sites, her Twitter account, and let's just say not favorable to the two gentlemen, and suggesting that maybe they were pedophiles and they were only having kids so they could engage in pedophilia with these children. I'm summing it up, but that is, according to the lawsuit, what the lawyers, Mr. Buzbee, attributes to the defendant in the lawsuit. So it is a defamation, probably a defamation per se, meaning being accused of committing a crime. And then, like I said, I commend the actual petition if anyone's interested, because it's very detailed, pictures, quotes, etc. So, Kyle, tell me what you think about this.
So I want to clarify for our audience, and I think this is important. Miss Witzke, I believe, I'm not looking at it, but her tweet suggests two major things, right? That the two homosexual men who had a child via surrogacy are stealing children for the purposes of human trafficking, which will ultimately lead to pedophilia.
Yeah, the quote from the tweet that's in the lawsuit that's copied is, according to this, the defendant said, a new fetish with pedophiles consists of robbing babies from their mothers straight out of the womb. This is human trafficking and would be illegal in a sane society.
So, one, I love this case. This seems just super interesting. I have a couple of comments, but number one in my mind is, now correct me if I'm wrong, accusing someone of a crime is defamation, right? Like it's not just I don't like you or you're a bad guy or whatever else. If you accuse someone of a crime, that is one of like the basic prima facie defamation cases, right?
Yes.
Fascinating. And clearly human trafficking is a crime.
Yes. And I know you don't like the sexual abuse kind of stories that much that are often in the news. There are a lot more statements that are attributed to the defendant in the lawsuit that I won't get into, but safe to say they are, yes, alleging that these gentlemen are doing this so that they can commit crimes. These
parents, by all account, normal parents, happen to be homosexual and had a child through surrogacy, and they've become they've drawn the ire of this Miss Witzke. And so, a little bit of background on her: she was the 2020 Republican nominee to the United States Senate for the state of Delaware, and so she is, unfortunately, a 35-year-old kind of nutter. Who says all sorts of crazy QAnon, really terrible things on the internet. But she's got quite a political following, and certainly a following on social media, and so she's attacked these folks. And I guess millions of followers on the internet.
On her Twitter page, it shows 61,000 followers. But
okay, 61,000. Yeah, well,
but there's probably more. I mean, there's lots of other
61,000 Twitter followers. Well, all right. So I got a couple of questions. One, how are you going to keep this case in Texas?
Well, the lawyers seem to have, and you're assuming that they'd file a motion to transfer venue to some other.
Well, so I read the petition where the plaintiffs seem to take that issue head on by, I guess, suggesting, I don't remember what the exact language is, but you've got to basically avail yourself of the jurisdiction, which in the context of online communication means you are directing the advertisement or directing the communication to a particular state. And Mr. Buzbee's firm seems to take that head on by alleging that. But I don't know that law enough to be able to opine off the top of my head if that's going to get it done or if this is going to get kicked to federal court.
Well, so federal court would be a different issue. So if they removed it to federal court, you have to have diversity of citizenship. And if the defendant's an out-of-state defendant, and the key thing here is the amount in controversy is $75,000.
So they've specifically alleged less than that.
And they've provided an affidavit saying I will only seek less than $75,000. And then as far as regardless, they can, if it's in state court, they can, if they want it in another state, they could file what's called a forum nonconvenience motion.
Yeah. So they're trying to keep it out of Delaware.
Yeah. Or if they removed it to federal court, they could try to have the court transfer it to another federal district in Delaware or wherever she resides. I think, this, again, we're kind of like our most recent guest, Andrew Kobos, we talked about crypto. This is interesting in that I think it will bring up some specific jurisdiction questions. I mean, it's, of course, a very smart judge who we know will consider it and review all the law. But I think it'd be interesting if the defendant retweeted their picture that was posted in Houston and then said this stuff about it, that would seem to be kind of relevant to a jurisdictional analysis.
She gathered the offensive data from the original broadcaster in Houston.
Yeah, let's say the gentleman here tweets his or Instagram stories here. Hey, I'm in Houston. Look at me and my husband and my kids, and then she takes that and either retweets it or reposts it wherever she may be. Is that good for jurisdiction in Texas?
I mean, it's an argument that I hadn't thought of, but I like it. Certainly the community most likely to be impacted is here in Houston, Texas. We have a good time on this show, and we're on occasion say off-color things, but man, would maybe the world just be better off without Twitter? Why did it have to be so terrible? It's kind of mind-boggling. And to that end, Pete, I know that not everybody here knows Pete as well as I do, but he is a fella who exercises, likes to stay fit, and has been known to partake in yoga from time to time. Is that fair, Pete? I think we were just talking about your time doing some yoga.
No, I would be doing it this evening if I weren't here serving the general public by providing all this interesting legal news.
Well, I want you to know the other night after you sent me this case, I went and got on Lauren Witzke's Twitter, and I just kind of zoomed through a little bit. And I came across a tweet that I think maybe hits home.
Okay, go for it.
So Lauren, she really does not like homosexuals, really doesn't like transsexuals. She's got a lot of things to say about the Jewish community. She kind of hits all the low notes of Western civilization. But here's one that I latched onto, and it says, "Things men can do rather than yoga." This was tweeted out 1 day ago. Things men can do rather than yoga, Pete. Go for a hike, ride a bike, lift weights, stop having sex with other men.
That's to lose weight or just other than yoga?
I don't know if it's aerobic or if it's I'm not exactly sure, but I came across that tweet and I thought, this is a gal that needs to be on the show.
Yeah, Lauren, if you're interested in coming on or your counsel, it's Kyle at herberttriallaw.com.
Go for a hike, ride a bike, lift weights, Pete, or just stop having sex with other men in lieu of yoga. So I
don't know. Is there implication there's something wrong with doing yoga?
I think the implication is things that are worse than yoga or better than yoga. The thing is, it's hike, bike, lift weights, and then stop having sex with other men. Is yoga a binary choice? Do yoga or have sex with men? You don't know.
I don't know. That's a little baffling. But how long ago was the tweet?
Yesterday.
Oh, she tweeted that yesterday.
She tweeted that yesterday in between a tweet about Kirk Cameron and something about how COVID vacciners redeeming abortion. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But Jesus was the bread of the sandwich, I think, for the tweet about yoga and having sex with other men. So,
all right. Well, I think we played this one out. Obviously, Mr. Buzbee has a standing invitation to talk about this case or any others.
Or to be our title sponsor.
That's right. So we'll keep that up.
Fascinating case. I really am curious to see who answers and how this shakes out. I bet we could maybe ask, both sides and the judge to come on and chat about this someday because it's fascinating.
We could resolve it right here, kind of an ADR process online.
Peter Taaffe Mediation Services.
Mm-hmm. We'll do it.
All right.
Next
one, Pete.
Next one, this is outside the state. I alluded to it, and then your spring break activities. Gwyneth Paltrow is set to stand trial today. Mm-hmm. This is, we're on March 21st. In a lawsuit filed by a retired optometrist who said that the actress turned lifestyle influencer violently crashed into him in 2016 while skiing in Utah at one of the most upscale ski resorts in the United States, which is Deer Valley Resort.
Nice. I've been there.
So the plaintiff, Terry Sanderson, actually, Ms. Paltrow counterclaimed against him and said, no, he caused it. And he's also trying to shake her down because she's rich and famous. So, Kyle, I think you mentioned that maybe you were checking in on a little some of this is online.
So I would say 3 interesting facts that have to do with Gwyneth Paltrow. Once I was skiing in Telluride, and Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, was staying in the same hotel as me, although we never met. Step 2, I was watching some of I couldn't know if it was pre-trial or if they were just fighting about evidence to put on. And I think the defendants were Ms. Paltrow was trying to avoid the admission of evidence about what she had done after the collision, which is she was I think she left pretty quickly thereafter. I don't know anything about ski law other than you're supposed to yield right of way. But I guess it's like a car wreck. You bring in eyewitnesses who say who hit who. I know that ski accidents can be very serious, having broken my leg skiing. So the other thoughts I have are I've never trusted any optometrists. They can't control their pupils. And then the other thing I would say is I once rode up a ski lift at Deer Valley with Paris Hilton. No joke. Paris Hilton, who was way cooler probably than Gwyneth Paltrow.
Did she talk to you?
Interestingly enough, she was very friendly, and she was really. There was 3 of us on the lift, and we had a short conversation. We had actually been standing next to each other in the ski shop, where I was, I think, buying sunscreen, and she was buying like 17 chapsticks. I don't know why. And then I got on the lift, and she happened to get on next to me, and we had a really very brief kind of 10-minute conversation, but she really could not have been more pleasant.
And that is the definition of a captive audience. She had nowhere to go.
Yeah, I said
down.
I said, "Hey, I'm Kyle," and she said, "That's hot."
All right. Well, 2 things on this. I think, and again, you said you didn't know. I assume that anytime you go skiing and you take the ticket, there's an implied arbitration. You can't sue me. You accept all the risks against the
slope.
ski park, right? But as far as your fellow skiers, that's
fire away.
Yeah, that doesn't apply. And yeah, I mean, it's hard enough to establish where you've got swearing match on a car wreck where you've got defined lanes and speed limits and
books of regulations.
Yeah,
video cameras and cops that come out and do reports.
Yeah, so do you get a standard of care expert on skiing? Or, I mean, who knows what that is? I mean, Paris Hilton would...
I don't know if Paris would still talk to me about this. She might. So what are his damages? Any idea?
Well, he says he's got several broken ribs. He's got a brain injury and the old famous other serious injuries. So...
broken ribs are painful.
His initial lawsuit sought $3.1 million, and then he amended his complaint and is now seeking $300,000. There may be some unique rules in Utah that would cause someone to.
I thought Utah was basically like Vietnam. There are no rules, but maybe that's wrong.
It could be.
I really don't know anything about skiing law, and quite obviously we brought this up because we want to talk about Gwyneth Paltrow, but.
Yeah,
man,
and talk about all your great skiing stories. All right, well, okay. Segueing into the next one, this case involved the Paltrow one involved an accident that happened in 2016, so 7 years ago, which brings me to another topic that I talk about a lot, and that is the delay between going to
trial. Okay.
Trial.
I thought we were going to talk about. Total Wine and more again, but no.
No.
Okay.
I think they've managed to stay out of the sights of some of our.
They've kept their nose clean for premises. A couple of weeks.
No, so that this comes up a lot in my daily practice, and that is telling plaintiffs, look, if you can't settle, that's totally fine because you have your day in court. Unfortunately, there's no telling when that will be.
Sure.
And then I give them, hey, I'm watching a trial, and this is a case that was filed in
2018, 2019,
and it was involving an incident that happened in 2016.
Yep.
So we're talking 7 years from now. So that's an issue. Local state rep Ann Johnson, who I believe is a trial lawyer.
Absolutely. And one of my mock trial coaches in law school and a friend.
Well, she has a bill pending HB 130 to add 6 new courts in Harris County, which I was kind of excited about. Because,
I think that's a great idea.
However, I looked at the bill, and maybe there's other bills out there, but this bill that Ms. Johnson has filed would only create 6 new criminal district courts. And as we know, that would have 0 effect on the civil cases now that the criminal courts have gotten their courthouse in shape.
So, I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's been discussions since I was in law school about adding a 5th probate court.
There's I believe there's something in front of the county commissioner's court to do that.
And then there's been discussions about adding, since I was in law school, they've built, so when I was in law school, the Criminal Justice Center had just opened. The civil courthouse was built, I used to work in the old 1910 courthouse. So, clearly they've spent a bunch of money on buildings. But man, if they could add a couple of courts to these big counties, what I think is going to hold that up is your legislature right now is really concerned with creating business courts and reshuffling the geographic makeup of the appellate courts. They've seen the urban areas of Texas turn increasingly blue. And so the GOP legislatures, kind of trying to reshuffle those to make sure that the judicial districts are big enough so that they can dilute that vote a little bit. That's what it seems like. And so, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Not really the point of this conversation. But I wonder if any bill that expands courts doesn't get kind of smushed to the side as the legislature tries to figure out how to suck power out of the urban areas that are electoral districts for the appellate courts. But man, it would be great for all the urban areas to have, and to be frank, the rural areas too. I come across rural judges who say, "Hey man, I'm covering a family court and a criminal court and a civil court for 3 counties. What do you want me to do? I'll try your car wreck case when I get to it." Our population has exploded, and our judicial resources have not kept up.
Yeah. So the Commissioner's Court, Harris County, had considered various different things on March 14th, and I believe our friend Judge Latasha Lewis Payne testified before them to talk about I think she was, although she's a civil judge, I think she was talking about all the court's needs. And one thing I think she pointed out in that hearing, from what I understand, is she noted that in December of 22, this Texas State Office of Court of Administration looked at all the case.
Those are the folks that keep track of all the statistics for the Supreme Court.
That's right.
Who's moving files, what's getting filed, all that stuff. Yeah.
Correct. And they looked at Harris County and they said, look, based on the cases that are pending, and we know between Harvey and then hit with COVID and the fact that the population of the county has grown tremendously, and we have not added.
Our civil courthouse was shut down for 3 years.
Right. And we have
criminal courthouse, not civil courthouse.
Right. And then we have not added any new courts for years. So the stats are, this is a state agency at the top level, they say Harris County needs 30 criminal judges, 19 civil judges, and 7 family court judges. And so that tells you where we are as far as delays and why they're delays. And so now, definitely, I think it's important because if we talk in civil stuff about money changing hands, obviously it has an impact on people's lives, but criminal involves people being held in jail.
Yeah.
So I can't blame anyone for wanting to put that to the forefront, but it's like, which problem do you want to deal with first? So,
I can get on a political soapbox here about the stuff we choose to fight about, as opposed to the stuff that actually would make people's lives better. And I can tell you, whether you operate a business or you've been hurt or you've got a criminal matter pending or you're the victim of a crime, moving this stuff to resolution more quickly and more efficiently is good for all of us, and it's good for society in general. Now, I don't know that there's the political will to go out there and make that happen, because nobody likes lawyers, nobody likes criminals, and nobody likes judges. Well, that's not true. I like a lot of judges. But man, no, it's a legit problem. I got plenty of cases in my docket that are from 2019 and 2020. That's a half a decade. That's crazy.
Yeah. So, there's definitely in your side of the V, y'all have a perception, I think, that insurance companies want to delay this as long as possible because they keep the float and all that. But I definitely see a lot of defendants, that even insurance companies and adjusters, that say, look, I'm as frustrated with this delay as anyone because I want this off my books.
Maybe.
And the quicker we can get this done, the better. So I agree with you. I think it's beneficial to both sides to have a firm trial date that's realistic and that's not 80th on the docket before it's going to get tried. I'm not optimistic. I'm sure Ann is a great
Based on the folks you've been working with, we could get some representatives from the Texas Association of Defense Counsel to go up to Austin and testify on behalf of the good representative's bill.
Yeah, that's a criminal one, but hopefully there's a civil one out there somewhere because they definitely need it. I do think that is something that plaintiffs, lawyers, and defense lawyers can all agree on.
You know what? While we're on this topic, let me put in a plug. I know Ann Johnson is incredibly receptive to the people in her district. I live in her district. If you've got thoughts about this, track her down. She's easy to find. She'd love the support or the criticism and advice. I bet she'd come on the show at some point. She's a very capable representative. I really admire the work she does.
All right, well, good. Well, we would love to have her. She hopefully will be done with her duties at the legislature on May 31st if there's not a special session, so we'll earmark her for a future episode. Okay, turning to some lighter things, Kyle, and we'll go a little quick on this.
Yeah, lay it on me.
Story out of involving one of these class action allegedly deceptive advertising.
You know that I have been hoarding the good Fireball.
The
whiskey-based Fireball.
The kind you can only get in liquor stores.
Now, I don't know if you people at home can hear our audio tech audibly voice his approval for hoarding the good Fireball.
I saw him looking around the room like, where is the stash?
Pete, I'm not going to lie to you. I just got back from Colorado. There might still be a little bit of Fireball in these veins.
Yeah, I mean, that is the perfect
good stuff.
recipe if you're on the slopes and you're on a taking up a ski lift with Paris Hilton and you maybe want to share.
And you say, Paris, would you like a little bit of hot cocoa and Fireball? And she'd say, is it hot? And you'd be like, yeah, obviously it's hot.
Okay, well, turning to this one, a Chicago man filed a lawsuit against Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, Jesus.
For false advertising, saying their boneless wings are overpriced since they are basically chicken nuggets. Well, Buffalo Wild Wings said, you know what? You're right. They're not wings.
They're not. And so, let me just cut you off right here.
Yeah.
There's a principle at the law called caveat emptor, or a similar principle called assumption of the risk. If you are so desperate for calories that you're going to Buffalo Wild Wings, you have no right to complain about the food. Right? Like, I go to Taco Bell, not a lot, but sometimes. And when they put that food in your bag, you don't check it. It's like Christmas morning. You don't know what Santa Claus gave you. Buffalo Wild Wings is the same. Are these wings? Are they nuggets? Is it just sauce? It is not your job to judge. You accept what the Buffalo Wild Wings gods have given you, and you go along on your way.
Yep. Yeah, and to me, I mean, they said, look, these are, the plaintiff says, these are just slices of chicken breast meat, deep fried like wings. Well, I thought that was better than wings. Isn't that considered usually the chicken breast is kind of seen more favorable to the wing? I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur.
I mean, I was really disappointed. I was disappointed in humanity earlier with the woman harassing the family, saying that they're pedophiles and child traffickers. But now that I hear this, I'm even further down in the dumps. Give me something to lift my spirits, Pete.
Well, I'll tell you what Buffalo Wild Wings said with a little tongue-in-cheek. They said it's true. Our boneless wings are all white meat chicken. Also, our hamburgers contain no ham. And our buffalo wings are 0% buffalo. So they're having a little fun with it.
That's quite honestly, that is maybe the most appropriate response. That's great.
All right, so we will turn to a more serious topic, and it's a little delicate, Kyle, so I'm going to tread lightly. If you want to tread heavily, do so at your peril.
I don't know how much more seriousness I can take.
All right, 3 Texas women are being sued for alleged wrongful death after allegedly helping their friend obtain abortion medication.
Yep.
Case was filed in Galveston State Court by a man who says I guess he was in the process of getting divorced, and his soon-to-be ex-wife became pregnant, and he alleges that 3 of her friends helped her obtain an abortion pill. I think that's what they are, and then she terminated her pregnancy. There are a lot of I read the petition. There's a lot of text messages. It's unclear how the plaintiff or his lawyers obtained her private text messages with her friends. I know I've seen some comments from people asking that rhetorical question as if maybe there's something improper has been done. We shall see. The lawyer for the plaintiff is a state representative named Briscoe Kane.
Sweet Briscoe Kane, the traitor tot.
And Jonathan Mitchell, who's the former Texas Solicitor General and architect of the state's prohibition on abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, according to the Texas Tribune. So I don't know if there's much to say other than this is interesting from a legal standpoint in that it is phrased as a wrongful death claim, just as if someone ran over your spouse and killed them and you sued for all the benefits of wrongful death. That is what this one is, saying that these women allegedly committed a crime that led to the death. Now, the wrongful death statute has been amended. I don't know when, but it does include, I don't know the exact term of art, but basically an unborn child. So, Kyle, any PC comments related to that issue?
I don't know that I have any PC comments about it. I will say this. The end goal is not to end just Roe versus Wade, I think, in this country. I think the end goal is something much more aggressive. And I think you're going to see that in a lot of states that vote red. And I don't know that there is much of an end in sight for this. I'm very curious to see who answers the petition on behalf of this.
There's three.
The three ladies who answer as defendants. But I mean, I guess I will make it clear. The woman is divorcing her estranged husband. She goes to seek advice from her friends, and they offer advice, and they're now being sued by two former GOP members of state government for counseling her regarding procuring an abortion.
I believe the allegation is that somehow they helped her procure the drugs. And I don't know. I know there's a lot going on right now as far as whether those drugs are going to be illegal. I think there's a pending case maybe in Amarillo over that. But in any event, somehow they're claiming that they were instrumental in getting these abortion drugs, I guess is what they're called.
I'd be curious to see, I mean, is it barratry to reach out to someone to represent them? I'm curious how Mr. Kane and this other fella found this case. I guess maybe that'll come up at some point.
Maybe in the deposition. Back to your comment on who's going to represent them. I'm curious because I suspect it is going to be national, heavy hitter firms that are doing it on pro bono. Because many firms, have kind of a division that handles that kind of stuff. I think it will be some of the most, accomplished lawyers.
What were the names of the two guys that filed this suit?
The plaintiff is named Marcus Silva, he's actually the party, and then Jonathan Mitchell is the lawyer, former Solicitor General, and Briscoe Kane, current state representative.
Well, Kane, certainly is probably a huge heavy hitter. I've heard his name on a lot of pleadings for big cases. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, not at all.
I don't know either of them.
Maybe they'll come on the show.
Mr. Mitchell, if he was the Texas Solicitor General, usually those jobs are former.
Didn't
Texas.
Didn't Ted Cruz have that? Wasn't he the Solicitor General at some point?
Probably, yeah. It's guys that have regardless of what you may think about Cruz personally, Senator Cruz, he is very well credentialed as far as.
Certainly.
And typically, what I've seen is the people that serve in that Solicitor General role are like former Supreme Court clerks and Ivy League and all that kind of stuff. So I assume Mr. Mitchell has similar credentials. We'll watch that.
That isn't. Maybe whether we watch it or not, I bet it's going to get a lot of media attention. Really kind of a bizarre place.
Kind of interesting because I was looking today to see if anyone had answered yet, and someone has intervened, a pro se person, with a very entertaining pleading as pro se folks are.
Who jumped in pro se?
I can't remember that. It was some person on. I'll have to send it to you. It's kind of bizarre.
My guess is this case is going to attract nutters on both sides. You're going to get amicus briefs from all kinds of folks on both sides of this issue.
Yeah,
should make for some really interesting reading.
Okay, I want to turn to one. It's kind of light, but it may generate some discussion. And then we'll close it out with a couple of verdicts of cases I was watching last week. Okay, this was just today or in the last day. There's a fairly prominent plaintiff's lawyer in Austin named Adam Lowy.
Yeah.
Do you know him?
The Lowy Law Firm, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not like personal friends, but we've communicated a few times. And
yeah, he's well known in Austin, very well respected, does a lot for the community.
He's a sponsor of the UT basketball team, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So anyhow, this was just an interesting story. This is in my where I spend some of my time in Austin. This is very much at issue, and that is a couple was in a head-on crash with an alleged drunk driver. They waited 2.5 hours for APD to show up after they called 911 several times. And then they've hired Mr. Lowy to represent them in the car wreck case. But he's kind of using it as an opportunity to let the world know about what's going on in Austin with some of the public services stuff. So have you ever heard of anything like that?
I spend a fair amount of time in Austin, as I know you do. I've heard there's lots of mistrust, it sounds like, between City Hall and Austin Police Department and the community at large. And it's hard for me to tell if that is true or if that is media generated. I don't know. But seems like things are not as simpatico in Austin as they were back when I departed in 1998 or 1999.
Yeah, this happened on Saturday, March 18th, so right in the middle of South by Southwest.
Right in the middle of spring break.
Yeah, spring break, which is usually light around campus, but South by Southwest is huge. Lots of people in town, lots of people aren't familiar with the area. So you would think they would have staffed up, but apparently they were understaffed. And so Kirk Watson is the new mayor, a former plaintiff's lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Served in the legislature for a long time.
Yeah. Great guy. I don't really know him well, but by all accounts, a lot of my friends of both political sides support him and have faith that he can turn things around. So, but that just kind of weaves in. Okay, 3 verdicts. I was watching one in the 165th, which is Ursula Hall. That was gentleman Keir McAlpine. McAlpine. I don't know him. But he was against, I believe, Shane Osborne. That resulted in a total judgment. It was 2 plaintiffs of $144,000 plus interest was the agreed final judgment.
Wow.
I think you may have reached out to someone about coming on about that.
I chatted with Mr. McAlpine, and he might come out here for our next confab to give us the details on the ins and outs of that trial. I've not reached out to Mr. Osborne, but perhaps someone at your office would like to, and maybe he'll come on and tell us what's going on.
Okay. Will do. That looked like there was not an argument about liability. It was just a damages case. And so, of course, we never know unless the lawyers want to come on and tell us, what the...
Was it a win? Was it a loss? Nobody knows. Was it a draw?
As we talked about last time, it's all in the spin.
Sure.
On whether it was a win or loss. The pretrial offers, as according to the plaintiffs, go down real low, and the pretrial offers from the defendants.
How many times have you heard this? Pretrial offer was $50,000. The actual verdict was $400,000, and then the defense lawyer says, "But they demanded $4 million."
Yeah. There's no record.
And then there's the other side of that too. So who knows?
The other one, plaintiff's verdict, was Greg Anderson of the Terry Bryant law firm.
Okay.
That case was in the 334th. Judge Rogers. I watched quite a bit of that. I can't recall who the defense lawyer was, but that verdict is posted online on the clerk's website. It was an interesting story in that there was a road rage driver that caused an accident, and then I believe a commercial vehicle then hit the plaintiff after the first one.
Wow.
So the jury and then apparently the plaintiff had significant health issues associated with it. So jury had a $4.5 million damage calculation, of which they put 80% on the quote unquote road rage driver and 20% on the truck driver. So I think according to the plaintiff lawyer, they think it's going to be about $1 million verdict against the truck company.
Well, that's interesting.
There must have been a settlement or something with the other driver because they were not part of the case.
Well, he probably just tendered his policy.
Yeah, could have been. Last one was a case in Judge Garrison's court.
All right.
I can't recall the plaintiff's lawyer, but
Judge Garrison owes me a 6-pack of beer.
Did y'all have a Texas-Oklahoma State?
We had a bet, Texas-Oklahoma State, and I'm not going to call her a Welcher because I haven't showed up to collect, but nor has she shown up, as is her practice, to deliver my beer here at the front desk. So, Judge Garrison, if you're listening, somebody owes Kyle a 6-pack of beer.
Well, okay, so what do you, on your first Friday CLE, I know the first Friday of April is Good Friday, so is it going to be?
Yeah, we're going forward.
You are?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, well, we'll all come here and hope not to get struck by lightning.
We won't get struck. Jesus will not strike. You are here learning things for the betterment of society. Jesus,
all right.
Jesus will not have a problem with that.
All right, very good. So who is your guest on for the next CLE?
We are bringing in Dr. Gary Keen? No, I got to look this up. Gary. How did I forget this? We're bringing in a neurologist who focuses his practice on traumatic brain injury cases. And I'm super Gary Krause. Dr. Gary Krause is going to come in and talk to us about how to evaluate a traumatic brain injury case, and if you need to, how to retain appropriate experts and do good objective testing so you can prepare a case like that for success or for defeat if you're a defense lawyer. So Dr. Gary Krause will be here on Good Friday to chat with us at lunchtime, and I may or may not be dressed in my pink bunny suit. You're going to have to show up live to figure that out.
And that would be that's relevant to both plaintiff lawyers and defense lawyers.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. I think he does a little bit of work for both sides, and he's there to talk about, how do you identify a TBI case? And if you think you've got one, how do you prove it? And if somebody brings one against you, how do you, what kind of experts do you want to hire? What buttons do you want to push to disprove it? Because, how do you figure out which kind of damages are legitimate?
Okay, well, good. Well, so that will be the next one. So this last verdict was a defense verdict in Judge Garrison's court. I know Nick Lanza was the defense lawyer. I know it was a hotly contested liability case.
Interesting.
And according to the jury verdict, the jury answered no. No
liability.
No on the defendant, so they did not get to the rest of it.
Who's that? What kind of case was it? Who's the plaintiff's lawyer?
I'll have to look. I just remember I mediate quite a few cases with the Lanza law firm, so I was watching him. I thought he did an excellent job. There's some interesting things with that case. Notably, there's a loss of consortium claim, and so that would be a topic for another day on when to bring those types of claims and how that kind of can not always be the best thing.
Loss of consortium claims for the uneducated is the loss of intimacy with your partner. And they give rise to a lot of weird questions in trial. And you really got to thread the needle. You got to have just the right kind of case.
Yeah. And that's tough. And that's always a hard conversation to have with clients when I was actively practicing. I strongly discouraged it unless there was a significant potential loss of consortium, because it does open up a lot of private information that otherwise would not be discoverable. But the plaintiff lawyer, don't get me wrong, I watched the closing. Plaintiff lawyer did great. I just can't remember who it was. But both sides, I think Judge Garrison, if she came on, would say that was an excellent case. You saw great lawyers. And just, as you know, that's the run of the draw on what a jury's going to do on those big questions.
I once had a lawyer much older and wiser than me say that he brought a loss of consortium claim as a young lawyer. And the defense lawyer got up and said, I wasn't sure how I was going to talk about this somewhat embarrassing topic of loss of consortium to this jury. So I tried to explain it to my wife, thinking I might get some pointers. And I told my wife that the case I was trying tomorrow had a loss of consortium claim. And she said, "What's that?" And I said, well, that's when a husband can no longer have sex with his wife. And so the plaintiffs want to get paid for that. And the wife of the defense lawyer said, "They pay you for that at the courthouse?" Which is enlightening, right? Because that's really kind of such a delicate topic that jurors oftentimes don't know how to make heads or tails of it. And it's a tough kind of claim to bring.
Yeah, and we focus a lot on the sexual marital relationship, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it too. That
certainly
and a lot of people don't know that a child can have a loss of consortium claim if their parent is significantly disabled and can't provide that type of care.
Yeah. So to be clear, we're talking about a loss of consortium, which covers a broad type of relationship and has nothing to do with sex or children, because we don't want that crazo in Delaware to start tweeting about us.
That's right. All right. With that, Kyle, I think we'll bring this episode to a close. If you are enjoying this or you want to keep up with us, we're on all the different podcast platforms. It's the Dirty Verdict.
The Dirty Verdict.
And you can subscribe, like, share, all that kind of stuff. Just listen.
Click, Twitter, plug, follow.
That's right. So we'll keep them coming, but we appreciate it.
Yeah. For now, we got to go. We got 2 yoga appointments we got to make.
There
Thanks,
we go.
Pete.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us this week at the Dirty Verdict Podcast. For links to some of the stories discussed today, please visit our website, www.dirtyverdict.com. If you have obtained a recent verdict and want us to discuss it, please email details on the verdict to us. Also, please follow us wherever you get your podcasts.